Thanks from ChannelEye as we welcome you to another Business Today program today. And today we are going to speak about something very timely as we always do on Business Today, because our prime goal on this program is to provide you knowledge and to educate you on the business trends by speaking to someone eminent in the business field or someone who is crucial to the business field, business and entrepreneurship as well. So today this topic is a topic that took Sri Lanka by a storm, and sort of like all the citizens, most of them, maybe a few of them, got affected by this specific term, and this is none other than pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes. And to discuss with us today on this topic, we have an eminent personality joining with us today in the studio. As you can see on the screen, we have Mr. KGP Sirikumara, Assistant Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, joining with us today to speak about this topic explosively and also very explanatively on this program. So, good evening, welcome to the program.
Good evening, Varna. Yes. Thank you for having me here.
Yes. So, Mr. Rupavahini, speaking about these schemes, Ponzi schemes and this pyramid scheme, this is a very a topic that sort of took Sri Lanka by a storm. It actually made a lot of effect on the populace because of certain misleading information that were circulating. If you can speak about a little bit about brief about what this exactly is in terms of definition, that will be grateful.
Of course. Varuna, now if you look at the Sri Lanka's legal system and the framework governing this kind of things, you will never find this term pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme in a law. Instead, what you find in the law is the reference to unlawful schemes or illegal schemes in the Banking Act. Especially the Banking Act amendment introduced in 2005 introduced this section 83C, which deals with this kind of activities, which describes that if you promote, organize, manage, finance, or kind of conduct a scheme where your benefits are largely dependent on the number of contributors joining or number of the amount of contributions coming in, then that kind of a scheme is recognized as an unlawful scheme, and it is an offense to do those things. I mean, conduct, manage, finance, promote, or advertise that kind of a scheme. That is what is generally we understood in Sri Lanka as an unlawful scheme. Now, these are the things that are very commonly referred to as pyramid schemes, and also this and several other things, which in fact do not have real economic activity, but schemes are there for the namesake, and people are getting attracted, offering little kind of different benefits. These are generally called Ponzi schemes as well. But as far as law is concerned, what is there is in only Section 83C, and that is an unlawful scheme.
Right. So in terms of benefits, so this is in terms of making benefit or misleading someone else, saying that they will be benefited by this scheme itself is a wrongful act. Am I correct?
Of course. In fact, the Banking Act has two layers of offences. In the sense, if you conduct, as I mentioned earlier, if you organize, conduct, promote and finance this kind of a scheme, that's an offence, which is punishable up to a prison term, imprisonment of up to 3 years and fine up to 1 million rupees. And if you do that, knowing that you are going to put someone into trouble and knowing that someone is getting into trouble, then the punishment is much severe, in the sense that it can vary from 5 years to 7 years imprisonment. And the penalty is 2 million rupees or twice the amount of money involved in the scheme, whichever is higher. So you'd see that it's kind of incremental approach where the normal promoters would be, normal participants in that sense would be also subject to committing an offense, but penalties would be different looking at your intention.
Right. So in terms of understand, because now there are so many ways of earning money out there, new inventions, new methods of earning money, new ways of investing in certain initiatives. How would one person understand and differentiate a legitimate business where they can actually invest and be profitable against something fraudulent like this one?
Yes, this is a little complicated, but it's not rocket science. It's not very technical. Now, as I mentioned, if this kind of a particular scheme is bringing benefits to a participant just because they are getting more people attracted into the system or more contributions attracted into the system, that is the predominant kind of characteristic in this kind of a scheme. But there are a lot of other things, kind of incidental or peripheral features which I can explain, like say sometimes the material or the goods involved in this kind of a scheme is not really valued at the correct price. Sometimes you are supposed to buy something at a highly inflated price. So the amount that you pay to buy a particular product in this kind of a scheme is much more than its commercial or market value. That's one thing. And this having the need to get more people attracted into that by referencing or something like that, it's one other feature. And sometimes a special thing that I should say is that earlier old pyramid schemes had physical material kind of goods involved in these kind of schemes, say furniture or solar panels and things like that. Everyone would understand that these are there for a particular purpose. When that is overvalued, one can understand there's something grey there. But if you look at the recent attempts, what we see and what many people get attracted is the fact that there is some sort of a unclear area. Now we see kind of a trend in attracting people, saying that these are cryptocurrency investments or virtual currency investments. Now when it comes to these kind of things, a lot of people who are ignorant of these things, who are not financially literate, or even they may be very educated otherwise, they may be professionals in certain other fields, but they might not understand what is this real thing about virtual currencies and cryptocurrencies, and they would get attracted thinking that there's a real economic activity there. But in fact, if you closely examine some of these schemes, what you would see is that in the guise of getting people into invest in virtual currencies, they are running kind of fraudulent schemes. Sometimes the product, the equivalent of the product that I was mentioning earlier, instead of a solar panel or furniture item or something like that, they would be getting people to trade on a particular platform, which we don't know whether those are real platforms. Now that activity is now offered instead of a product that I was referring to earlier. Now these kind of things are there. That is why people should be very much vigilant.
Great, thank you for the advice. And now that specific product that specific scheme that you spoke about is about goods. But now I think also recent developments and also previously over the last few years, we have come to realize certain other money or virtual currency, as you mentioned. So both of those schemes run in the same pattern. Correct?
Of course, if you look at the kind of operational scheme, both would be the same. But the kind of those who are promoting this kind of schemes, knowing that these are illegal things, they try to somehow hide the very prominent features of the scheme, saying that this is different. Always what we see is that very kind of conspicuous schemes where there is a clear pyramid activity. What they say is that ours is a legal one, but others are pyramids. Everyone else is running a pyramid, but not ours. But why do they say not ours? Because they have certain features hidden.
I see.
But a close scrutiny on the scheme and the operational mechanism will reveal that they are not doing something different, but the same thing. But I'm not saying, by saying that, the people, those who are doing online trading or kind of e-commerce, they are not doing something wrong. What they are doing is perfectly legal. They can do their activities within the legal framework. But if you have a kind of a pyramid scheme, the nature of the schemes that are described in Section 83C of the Banking Act, that is illegal. So we need to make a clear distinction between online trading done on legitimate platforms. One might be selling garments or vegetables, or supermarkets may be selling their items on internet. That's not something wrong. selling on internet is something that we should promote.
Yes.
But if you are not selling actually something but promoting a pyramid scheme, that's clearly an offense.
So the offense starts the moment when your main intention is to like rake the person and get earn more profit by putting the other person in trouble or like inflicting harm to the other person under you.
Of course, but the only thing, the one special feature in this section is that it doesn't particularly focus on the intention. The reason why is that sometimes people get attracted to these things just to save their investment. They try to get other people involved, sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, that other people would be in trouble. But the second segment of the offense, which talks about the intentional part, knowing that you are putting other people in trouble, would entail a severe penalty.
Okay, right. In terms of Sri Lanka's economy, because now schemes like this might, you would be the person to explain that to us, might harm Sri Lanka's economy in terms of foreign currency or existing local currencies, or even the buying power of the citizens when it comes to depleting their savings. How is that affecting Sri Lanka's economy? How things like this, having them in place, affecting Sri Lanka's economy and the citizens?
Yeah, one thing is that we need to have a kind of a decent and civilized financial culture in the country, where everyone is involved. Financial inclusion is something that everyone should promote here. To have a financially inclusive society, there should be legitimate institutions, legitimate schemes, and legitimate products. When you get attracted to kind of illegal schemes, your experience is going to be very bitter. And with that kind of population, you can't achieve financial inclusion. And the other thing is, for someone to invest in this kind of illegal scheme, where do they find money? What we see is that some people withdraw or take away their legitimate deposits in financial institutions and put them into this kind of traps. That is one thing. That is how, in a way, the financial system of the country is being affected. And the other thing is, certain the products or assets involved in these type of things are sometimes cryptocurrencies. Now, in Sri Lanka, there is no law prohibiting cryptocurrencies, but there is no legal recognition given to them as well. Sri Lanka's legal tender is Sri Lanka rupee. But there are, considering the impact of growing cryptocurrency trends, there are a lot of countries who have introduced some kind of restrictions. Sri Lanka is also among them. Now, probably you may be aware that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka explained on 4 occasions from 2018 up to 2023 March. On 4 occasions, our stance on cryptocurrencies. Now, one such thing is that you might get into trouble by investing in this kind of a highly volatile asset. And to prevent people getting into this kind of things, Central Bank specifically under the Foreign Exchange Act prohibited EFTCs, electronic fund transfer cards, that is debit cards and credit cards, being used for the acquisition of cryptocurrencies. The reason is that we need to keep people within some kind of limits, otherwise it would affect Sri Lanka's economy, the country's foreign exchange position in certain cases, and more than everything else, in this kind of a scheme, if you are supposed to get more people attracted, you can't talk to total strangers and get them involved.
Yes.
You would speak to your family members, your relatives, your colleagues in the office, and so on. Now, when the scheme collapses, all your relationships with these people would be affected. So it's more than economic impact, there is a huge social impact as well. We know certain examples in certain countries like Albania, where the entire country went into kind of civil war situations, where thousands of people died. I think estimate is that more than 2,000 people died in Albania after the widespread pyramid schemes collapsed. Now, we don't want to have that kind of situation in the country, financially, socially, or otherwise. That is the reason why people should be away from this.
So these schemes can also be lethal at times.
Yes, of course.
Right. So, as the sole governing body, the controlling body of the Sri Lanka's economy, being the central bank, what has the central bank taken? What steps and measures has it taken to safeguard the citizens and to make sure that people don't fall into these traps currently and also in the future?
Yes, I was mentioning this act. The amendment was introduced in 2005. For last 18 years or so, we have been educating people through media conferences, press releases, and advertisements in electronic and print media that these are illegal schemes, these are the features of illegal schemes, and so on. But the unfortunate position is that always there is someone who is less financially literate who would get trapped in this kind of things. So, having looked at that, we have conducted continuous kind of investigations on these schemes, and from time to time, we have declared 8 schemes to be unlawful schemes operating in the country. So, on that basis, Central Bank has worked closely with the Attorney General's Department and law enforcement authorities, and initiated prosecution of offenders under those who have done activities relating to those schemes. But prosecuting offenders is one thing. Our final intention is not to punish someone and say that we have done our part. But we want to ensure that other people are also not getting into this kind of things. So we have continuous kind of education programs, the island-wide, and the other thing is that we have a kind of very strengthened enforcement unit in the Resolution and Enforcement Department of the bank, who would conduct investigations into this kind of schemes whenever they get information from general public by way of complaints, or sometimes journalists refer them to the central bank. Sometimes even in their own volition, in their own activities, if they find something suspicious, they will look into them, they will examine them and come to a conclusion whether it's a pyramid or otherwise.
Okay, so that's where the demarcation happens, where you understand whether it's a legal activity or a fraudulent activity, and then you take the needed responses.
Yeah, having said that, I must add something else. That is, now when I say that there were 8 schemes identified as illegal operators, or probably we might recognize certain other things in the near future, that doesn't mean that those are the only entities doing pyramids or unlawful activities.
Right.
There may be a lot of others. But the fact that we have determined several entities does not mean that that is the exhaustive kind of list of illegal operators. There may be other people who would need to be investigated, probably being investigated by the central bank, or probably not known to the central bank as yet. So our message to the general public is, please follow the notices and see that you don't engage in the determined entities. At the same time, please ensure that if someone has similar characteristics that we have mentioned again and again, don't get involved with them as well. So this list is not kind of an exhaustive one. This is what we have done so far.
Right, okay. And also, now imagine this is about how to prevent yourself from getting into this situation. But what if someone's already in this situation, someone is already in the mud and wants to get out of this situation? Is there any help that they can request from the government, maybe from the central bank or any other authorities out there?
Of course, I think it's a very important question, because as I mentioned earlier on, many people get into this kind of things because of their ignorance. Now, but famously, the ignorance of law is not an excuse. So you might be committing an offense even if you are not aware of the law. But we don't want to run after everyone who is getting victimized in this kind of schemes. So what we say is that, as I mentioned earlier, if you conduct, promote, advertise, finance, or manage this kind of a thing, you are committing an offense. So mere fact that you have put money into the scheme, your contribution can sometimes be interpreted as financing. But very often in our practical approach, we don't go behind all the people who have contributed in that sense. But what we look at is, after contributing, if you try to promote it anymore, if you try to get more people attracted into the system, that is where you are really into the scheme and you are conducting the scheme. then that is an offense. So our message is that if you have become a victim by being asked to contribute and you have already contributed, then don't worry, tell that to the central bank, tell that to your nearest police station, and try to recover that money from the person to whom you paid that. Right? So that is your immediate exit from the scheme, and if you don't promote that, if you don't get other people attracted, you can have a reasonable excuse. Otherwise, if you try to recover your money from attracting new people into the scheme, you are committing a serious crime.
So the only way out for them to recover their money would be to receive the money from the ones that they paid forth.
Yes, of course. There is no central authority. There is no recognized entity that has accepted money. I think in the recent schemes, the danger is that you can't find the person to whom you paid money as well.
That's right.
It's a random person whose name is suggested on the so-called the platform or app. So you can't find the person to whom you paid the money. So first step is not to take part in these things. If you have taken part, try to get money from that person. You can't get it from anyone else, not the government, not the central bank. They are not going to pay you back because they didn't receive money.
Okay. Right. So in this scheme, in terms of characters, there are those who are committing the crime and also those who get victimized, and then there's the government and the central bank. When it comes to the ones who are committing the crime, and if they are found of guilty of this crime, what would be the punishment? What is the legal aspect of this?
I was simply referring to that by way of reference to Section 83C. There is imprisonment up to 3 years and penalties up to 1 million in the first stage, and the second stage 3 years to 5 years imprisonment. 3 years to 5 years imprisonment and 2 million rupees or twice the amount of money in note, whichever is higher. Now, more than that, there is one other aspect. It's good that you don't ask that question. Now, this offense under Section 83C is a predicate offense for money laundering. Now, you are aware that Sri Lanka has Prevention of Money Laundering Act number 5 of 2006 and Financial Transactions Reporting Act number 6 of 2006. Under both these acts, unlawful activities are defined. Under both these acts, an offence under Section 83C of the Banking Act, that is a pyramid scheme, is an unlawful activity for the purposes of anti-money laundering and financial transactions reporting. So if you are kind of earning money through a pyramid scheme, then your activity would fall within the definition of money laundering in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So in addition to being punished for the offence of conducting an unlawful scheme, that is pyramid scheme, you will become a victim. You will be punished for the offence of money laundering as well. That is possible. That is why you may have heard that there are a lot of financial accounts being frozen and so on. That is because anti-money laundering aspect is also here. That's an integral part of this kind of schemes. So that is the position. That's the position.
All right. So, and also now when it comes to earning money, now people are definitely in those who are having an entrepreneurial mindset. They always want to invest in businesses. They want to find avenues where they can broaden their income or broaden their scale. How can a person who has this mindset, who has the urge to invest and earn an extra income, or like a side hustle, as we always say, sort of mitigate this from happening, or rather find the proper avenues to invest in terms of earning money, earning extra income?
I think we can put it in the context in this way. Now, there are a lot of activities in any economy, in any society that would make a lot of money, but we don't go into those activities for a particular reason. Certain things are illegal, then we don't take part in those activities. Certain things are maybe very profitable, but involves very huge amount of risks. So it's up to someone's risk appetite in that sense. But if something is illegal, of course it's a strong no No, you can't do those things because you may be put behind bars for committing that particular activity. Now say, we'll take very practical examples. Selling vegetables as against selling some illegal substances. Much more profitable would be the second part. But we don't promote the second part just because it is profitable. Because selling vegetables or selling fruits may be much less profitable, but it's a reasonable and kind of a legitimate thing. So when it comes to this kind of investments also, what we say is that there are a lot of legal recognized institutions in Sri Lanka's financial system. You have banks and two categories of banks, then finance companies, and you have government securities and a lot of other investment instruments. You can use your entrepreneurial skills to develop any kind of a scheme which is not illegal, in terms of the section 83C of the Banking Act, as well as any other law. So there can be a lot of things. Say, for example, there is Payment Devices Frauds Act that may attract certain activities into the scope of the act, and there are a lot of other laws which deal with this kind of things. So it's general advice that you can't do illegal things. So you need to be away from those things. However they are lucrative, however they may make money, you can't be getting into those things.
So it always depends on the substance and the goods or the service, the moral value of whatever that you are selling and whatever that you are having in exchange, that determines this factor. And also the need to inflict pain or like loss on somebody else at the same time.
Yes, that's a huge problem.
All right, and then also now for someone who wants to get more knowledge or more information about these pyramid schemes, or maybe just about financial advice, can the central bank help them? Is there any way to for them to go and seek out for help or information?
Of course, central bank has different kind of windows for this purpose. Now, if it is a particular thing about pyramid schemes or unlawful activities, then you can have access to Resolution and Enforcement Department of the Central Bank, which would provide you any clarification or any information pertaining to that. At the same time, you have Communications Department of the Central Bank, which is very open to this kind of queries. They would refer to relevant people. And you have Financial Consumer Relations Department of the Central Bank, which would explain you anything about your financial conduct, your financial activities, and the things that you should not get involved in. So we have kind of a reasonable amount of resources allocated for this purpose, and I would urge general public to get the best benefit out of them.
But always be mindful at the same time would be also another advice that can come from you. To be mindful about when you make business decisions and also choosing your pathway to having an income.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. KGP Sirikumara, the President Governor of Central Bank, joining with us today for discussing this fruitful or rather broad topic, which we will definitely have to have another discussion very soon as well.